From the News Channel 5 Network, this is MorningLine.
Good morning, everyone. Nick Beres here. Thanks so much for joining me on MorningLine on this Tuesday. Kind of casual this morning. Thought I would dress down a bit to encourage you to call in, join in the conversation. This is not a big formal thing today, as we are going to be talking about Social Security because it's something that affects us all, and we always get a lot of phone calls from you when we do this topic. And as more casual as I am, we have the more formal Josh Horn with us this morning. I'd expect nothing less from this individual who is always, if nothing else, professional. It's good to see you this morning.
Good to see y'all.
Nice to have you on. And you know, we as always do the Social Security program every few weeks here. The number is 737-7587. Your chance to call in, talk about SSI, the application process, where you stand if you're wondering about something that has to do with how much you're receiving or thinking about the future and when to apply. Those are just a few things to throw out there. I always like to start off with Josh before we get to any calls, and it does get busier as we move through the show because we help a lot of people here. Start calling if you have some questions, but what's going on these days? What's happening, Josh? You want to share with us off the top since we last saw you?
Yeah, I mean, a couple of the main things that are happening right now that I want to try to make everybody aware of is beginning in August, there are two services that are going to be either reduced or eliminated in the Social Security field offices. One of them is when you come in to apply for a Social Security card, well, that is mailed centrally, and so it can take a week or so to get to you. And a lot of folks feel like they need something that day, and so we'll print out a Social Security verification right there. Unfortunately, you know, that does come with some fraudulent activity because there's no security features or anything like that on that printout. And so beginning in August, we're not going to be able to give a Social Security number verification right then and there. So it's even more important to make sure you hold on to your Social Security card, have that readily available, or if you don't have one now, go ahead and come in and anticipate any future needs. Now, a lot of employers, or all employers and third parties, they do have the ability to verify this information online through our Social Security Business Services Online portal on our website. So a lot of employers should be shifting more to using those features. The other thing that will be coming soon is that we in the field office will no longer be giving you the benefit verification letters. Now, you can get this immediately by creating or accessing your My Social Security account online. The other way that you can get one if you don't have a My Social Security account is to call the 800 number, and they can mail you a benefit verification. So a lot of folks need that to get housing or loans or things like that. So please keep that in mind.
When do we need our Social Security card again? I mean, I don't even know where mine is. I know my number. When do you need the card? For what purpose? Yeah,
a lot of folks are needing it for employment, that employers are wanting to see that Social Security card for official verification. And again, that they do have access to that information online, but a lot of them just haven't used that, or maybe not familiar with it, or may just think it's easier or quicker to ask you to show your Social Security card. So that's when we see a lot of folks needing to have the actual card or something that says their Social Security number on there.
Okay, sounds good. Are there any other deadlines on the horizon, anything people need to be aware of with regard to those two things coming to an end? You know, in terms of any I always bring this up. I don't think it's until September, October, and November when you talk about a cost of living increase. Is that when we'll hear? I know you have no inside information on what that will be, but that's usually later this fall.
Yeah, that's a question that we get you know, every day in the field office. How am I going to get more money, or when can I get more money? And unfortunately, most of the time, the only way that you're going to get more money is at that cost of living. And basically, at the end of every year, usually in November, Congress sits down and evaluates the different facts and figures and comes up with the cost of living adjustment, and then that takes a place effective with January. So that's something that you can definitely look forward to. And a lot of times, the same time that it hits the news and Yahoo and Google and CNN and whoever else, it is about the same time that we get it here in the field office, and so it usually just hits immediately. Like I said, sometime usually at the end of November.
Yeah, a lot of people, you know, actually start budgeting thinking they're going to get a cost of living increase, which typically we have over the last few years. There was a period of time there when we were in those tight economic times. They looked at that formula you're talking about, and there was no cost of living increase for a couple of years. caught people by surprise, but that's just the way it is.
Right.
It's based on, when we say cost of living, property values, the cost of buying food, stuff like that.
Right, yeah. Just all those factors that the Congress takes into account.
Yeah, so, all right, well, we'll obviously find out when you do, probably at the same time in November. Now, again, the number is 737-7587. Questions or comments this morning as you maybe go through the application process? I'm curious just right now. We've talked about how more and more is being done online. I know there's a lot of people out there that are maybe in the process of applying, and I think Social Security is always trying to streamline. And one thing I've learned over the years doing this program with you, and then before with Daryl Payne and others, is that sometimes it can take months, and you're always trying to find ways to streamline to get people their benefits quicker. Have we seen some of that time waiting between when you apply for perhaps Social Security disability shortened because of the online elements?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you an example for folks that apply with their appeals. Maybe they were denied at the initial level, so they decided to go online and file their appeal online. You type all that information in, and then we can immediately bring it in the next day and get it to the hearing office or the disability office if it's a reconsideration. But as opposed to if you fill it out on paper, well, then you're going to have to mail it in, so there's a few days with mail time, and then we're going to get it in. We have to log it into our office to make sure that we're keeping track of it, and then it's going to go into a stack, for lack of a better term, of other paper applications that's come in, because now we're going to have to manually type it in, as opposed to an internet appeal who just came right on in and we were able to zip it right over to where it needs to go. So there's this, that's an example of significant time savings that we're able to do with the internet services. And the same thing is with online applications. Instead of coming down to the Social Security office or maybe even setting up an appointment, which right now our appointment calendar is out several weeks, so you're going to have to wait several weeks to get in to see us, and then you're going to give us all the information. We may have to get some additional information from you at a later time, as opposed to you going on tonight or today or whenever and typing in that information, and then we're going to pull it in the very next day and again get it to where it needs to go. So.
Okay, good. Well, that's the way to go. As we've said all along, online speeds things up. It still takes time. I'm going to get into some numbers with you, but as I said, we've got the lines open. We've got some calls coming in now. If you're smart and you have questions, you're calling now, because it'll get busier later. So jump in. We've got lines open. Before we take our first break, let's take a call from Kenneth. Kenneth, good morning.
Yes.
Hey, Ken, how can we help you, my friend?
Well, I have a question. I retired about 3-4 years ago, and I'm still working. And I was just wondering if I've been paying in Social Security all this time, and if they will take change my benefits any.
Because you've been working since you retired, you still kept a job for a while?
Working full time, still working.
And drawing your Social Security?
Yes.
Okay. That's a great question, and the answer is yes. Your Social Security benefit takes into account your top 35 years of indexed earnings. So, of course, like in 1970, 75, whatever, those earnings weren't as much as they are now. But what we do is we bring those up to today's numbers, and then we take the highest 35 years of your entire work history. So if you're still working, this year's earnings may knock out one of those from when you first started working, and then we can recalculate your benefits based on that. Now, it happens automatically, usually in the middle of the year or sometimes towards the end of the year, but once you get your taxes filed, or if you wanted to bring your W-2 to us and say, hey, look, I just want to see if this is going to make a difference, we can go ahead and do that calculation right then and there and see if it does increase your benefit. But that is something that we commonly see. It's usually not a huge increase, maybe a few dollars, but hey, a few dollars could go a long way.
Yeah. I appreciate it.
Hey, thank you, Kenneth. That's a great question. If nothing else, him working, which he's entitled to do at this point, is not going to do anything to reduce what he's collecting. All it can do is if he happens to earn more than he... And it is interesting, 30 years, and you think back, I mean, I'm making more now than I did 20 years ago when I got into the business, okay? So, you might, as you're older and at his age, if he's got a good job, it could bump one of those salaries, because you know how we all start off, usually, at a low wage.
Yep.
Bump that puppy out and maybe get a modest boost from it. That's a good question.
Yep.
All right, listen, we'll take a break on that one, and when we come back, if you're on hold, Glenn and the others, we do have lines open. This is Josh Horn with Social Security. We can answer your questions on SSI, the application process, what your benefit may or may not be. We'll take those calls from you and more right after this. Stay with us.